Now I know what you're thinking, how can there be a part 2 to a video that was apparently supposed to be complete? Well, that's because I wasn't originally planning to make a part 2, but I've decided to do one because there's a couple of things that I want to touch on, things that I want to clarify, or even some things that I think I may have gotten wrong in my first video that I want to talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about, actually, is my emphasis on the original Japanese lore of Sonic, because I got a lot of comments from people very upset with me for saying that things like Chili Dogs and Robotnik and Sonic's attitude and Mobius and all that are not actually part of the original Sonic lore. And I don't really know why people are so upset with me about that, because that's just the truth, that's just facts, that's how it is. But I think a lot of people are actually upset with me because of my tone when talking about those things, because I was very dismissive and very snarky, and I want to clarify that the reason that I was talking about those things in that way is because a lot of people have very strong misconceptions about what the lore and story of the classic Sonic games are. Because those games had different lore in all these different regions, a lot of people grew up with those versions of the series, and then when everything was basically dropped to continue with the Japanese lore in Sonic Adventure, a lot of people kept on believing in those things that were no longer canon to the stories that they were looking at. I mean, just look at it. How many people still to this day call the planet of Sonic Mobius and refer to the animal characters as Mobians, even though that has never once been said in a single Sonic game ever? So the reason I was so aggressively saying that Chili Dogs aren't a thing, and Mobius isn't a thing, and Robotnik isn't a thing, and Badniks aren't a thing, is simply because I really wanted to clarify to people that those are not part of the original intended Sonic lore. Those are part of their own separate lore created for the American and European versions. And to clarify, I don't personally have any, visceral hatred for those versions of Sonic. It's just that personally, my favorite version of Sonic is the original Japanese version, and that version is very unknown to a lot of people, which is why I wanted to make that first video, to share what that version of Sonic is like. I'm not telling anyone that they're wrong for preferring the American or European versions of Sonic or whatever. You do you. Honestly, I really don't care. I just wanted to make it clear that those are not the same Sonic as the originally intended Japanese one, and not the same Sonic as the one that we have today, because the current version of Sonic is built upon the original Japanese lore. I just wanted to straighten everything out for people that had those misunderstandings. Okay? We good? Is everyone gonna stop being angry at me and calling me a weeaboo and all that crap now? Probably not, but whatever, I don't actually care. Now, the next thing I want to touch on is something I said in my first Classic Sonic lore video, which is about Sonic not being able to run at the speed of light. Again, I got a number of comments from people telling me that I was wrong, and specifically how I stated that there are no instances of Sonic going that fast in the games, and then a bunch of people were like, oh, actually, what about this and that, blah, 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 blah. And so I want to touch on that a little bit, because I still stand by what I said there. I do not think there's any real evidence of Sonic going faster than the speed of light in any of the Sonic games. There are examples where they say things like that, like, for example, the developers themselves have just said in interviews that Sonic is able to go that fast, but I really don't give that any credit whatsoever, because you need a lot more than just words to make me believe something. The way that the Sonic games are actually written, I don't see any reason to believe that's actually the case, because, you'll have instances in Sonic games where Sonic needs to get somewhere before something happens, and there's a time limit, and time limits are inserted into stories in order to add pressure and tension to things of oh man, is the character going to be able to do this before time runs out? That doesn't actually achieve the effect of adding tension to the story if the character could just irrelevantize the time limit by just trying as hard as they could. So the very existence of things like Sonic needing to board the Death Egg before it gets away, to me, that says that there was a chance of Sonic not being able to get onto the Death Egg, which means he can't move at light speed, because light speed is effectively just teleportation, and you can basically go from anywhere to anywhere instantaneously. So the developers can say all they want that Sonic moves at light speed, but unless I actually see that in the games, I'm not gonna believe it. Now, there are a couple of instances in Sonic games where they do state that Sonic is moving at light speed, but again, I really don't necessarily buy that. For example, in the manual of Sonic CD, they say that Sonic has to move at light speed in order to achieve time travel. And also in Sonic Adventure, it is stated that the light speed dash obviously has Sonic moving at light speed. However, this is something that really annoys me with a lot of Sonic fans. People seem to not be able to tell the difference between things that are actually supposed to be taken seriously as, like, establishing rules of the universe, and embellishing things to make them sound cool. I don't actually think that Sonic is moving at light speed when he does the light speed dash or whatever. They just wanted to give the move a cool name, so oh yeah, the light speed dash, that sounds cool. Sonic is moving at light speed, even though he's actually not. In fact, in Sonic Adventure, you actually move slower doing the light speed dash than you can doing a spin dash. And same thing with the time travel in Sonic CD. I think them saying that you have to achieve light speed is, again, just an embellishment to make it sound like, oh man, Sonic is moving so insanely fast, but it's bleh. I mean, in that same game, you have the race with Metal Sonic, and if Sonic could move at light speed, there would be no race. So I do still stand by the idea that Sonic cannot run at light speed. However, I am willing to admit that it could just be my own personal dislike of the idea of Sonic being able to move that fast, as it makes him too overpowered, and so I'm looking specifically for things that support my argument, and, you know, it's entirely possible that Sonic can move at light speed and he just chooses not to, for whatever reason, I guess. While we're on the topic of this kind of thing, another thing I want to talk about is Amy, and specifically her affinity for, like, fortune-telling and tarot cards and horoscopes and all that. Because in later Sonic games, there is a slight implication that Amy's affinity for magic like that might actually be because she has some slight degree of genuine magical abilities, such as her ability to turn invisible in Sonic 06, or how she mentions that she has a sonic sense, where she is able to detect Sonic's presence somehow. Again, I think this is a thing of people taking stuff way more seriously than it's supposed to be. The Sonic Sense thing, I think, is just supposed to be a joke about how Amy is always able to find Sonic, mainly due to what is actually just a plot contrivance. I mean, really, that's not something unique to Amy. Anyone can just find Sonic if they want to, via the plot just says that they do. I don't think Amy actually has any sort of special ability that allows her to sense someone's presence or anything like that. And in terms of the magic stuff with Amy, I really highly doubt that there was ever, originally at least, supposed to be an implication that Amy had magical powers of some kind. The reason Amy is into those kinds of things is because those are common things that young girls are interested in Japan. And so when they were originally creating Amy as a character, and basically her only trait was that she was a young girl, they gave her an interest in fortune-telling and the occult and stuff like that, simply because she is a young girl, and that's what young girls in Japan are interested in. It was just intended to be a hobby and nothing more than that. At least originally, I don't think there was ever any intention of implying that Amy actually had some kind of magical abilities. Of course, as the series goes on, things get retconned and changed all over the place, so whatever. But at least in the original interpretation of Sonic, I highly doubt that was the case. Speaking of Sonic CD, another thing I want to touch on in this video is the placement of Sonic CD on the timeline, as now with Sonic Origins, we have the official placement of it between Sonic 1 and 2. And so it's like, oh, I was wrong in my first video, but I actually don't necessarily think that's true. As I said in that first video, the placement of Sonic CD is very unclear. And I originally believed that it took place between Sonic 1 and 2. The only reason I got the idea that it might take place after 3 and Knuckles is because of Metal Sonic. I figured that if they're gonna keep reusing that Metal Sonic design, then it must be because that is the most advanced Metal Sonic. However, that was just a theory that I had. It's entirely possible that Eggman just took an older Metal Sonic design that he had and upgraded it, and that's why he kept using Metal Sonic. In fact, in Knuckles Chaotix, it does say that Metal Sonic is upgraded there, so it's entirely possible that that's what was actually going on there. but I do want to point out that they have said the opposite previously in official Sonic materials. In the Sonic Mega Drive comic written by Ian Flynn, who also did writing work for Sonic Origins, he stated in that comic that Sonic CD takes place after 3 and Knuckles. So even still to this day, I would argue that the placement of Sonic CD is fairly inconsistent. Though, if we want to go with the original intentions, it is fair to say that that game does take place after Sonic 1, simply because that game was made to be a sequel to Sonic 1, though at the same time, Sonic 2 was also meant to be the sequel to Sonic 1. So, what do you really do? One's gotta go there and one has to go after. And also, I want to point out that I don't necessarily think that they put Sonic CD between 1 and 2 purely for story reasons in Sonic Origins. I think the bigger reason is probably due to the pacing of the game, because in Sonic Origins you can play all the games in one go, back to back. And going from Sonic 1 to 2 to 3K, that all makes sense, that's a nice progression of the series, but then after 3K, going to CD feels like you've gone back in time in terms of the game design there, because Sonic CD very much feels extremely similar to Sonic 1. So placing Sonic CD between 1 and 2 creates a smoother progression of the series. So I think that is actually a bigger contributing reason to why they put Sonic CD between 1 and 2 in Sonic Origins. So now with that out of the way, the next thing I want to talk about is something that I may have been wrong about in my previous video, and it's about the confusion revolving around the Chaos Emeralds in the early Sonic games. Because first of all, there's that weird thing where every game seems to have like the same backstory, where the Chaos Emeralds legend to be on this island and they wiped out the ancient civilization that used to live there, and it's just weird how they kept on reusing that same story arc over and over. But also, it's weird how the Chaos Emeralds are said to reside on all these different islands. How can they reside on all these different islands when there's only 7 Chaos Emeralds, and we've already seen that they're on South Island, and then apparently they're in West Side Island, and then apparently again they're on Angel Island. What the fuck is going on here? Doesn't make any goddamn sense. And I've seen some people say in the comments in my first video that they think that the Chaos Emeralds move from island to island after the events of each game. So they were on South Island in Sonic 1, after that they moved to West Side Island, and so on and so forth. But that doesn't really make sense because they don't just say that the Chaos Emeralds are on these islands, they specifically state that according to legend, the Chaos Emeralds reside here, which means that they would have had to be there for a very long period of time. So how could the Chaos Emeralds have been on South Island and West Side Island, and multiple other islands for that matter, long ago? I guess we could assume that maybe after an ancient civilization is wiped out, the Chaos Emeralds get brought to another island and the same thing happens again, but I'd still find that incredibly weird. But it's possible that the explanation to all this is that in the original version of the Sonic series, there was not only 7 Chaos Emeralds. It's possible that the Chaos Emeralds are actually more like a rare mineral that can be found in certain locations in the world of Sonic. So every time we go to a new island and collect the Chaos Emeralds there, it's possible these are not the same Chaos Emeralds every game, but actually each game has their own set of Chaos Emeralds that we're collecting. This is an idea that's been around for a long time, and I was aware of it when making that first video, but I never really found this to be a likely explanation. I didn't think that this was the intention of the creators when they were writing these games, which is why I opted not to mention it in my previous video. I talk about this in my Shadow the Hedgehog story video, and due to some comments that I got on that video, it actually caused me to rethink my thoughts about that whole idea and look back at the manuals of the old Sonic games. And upon doing that, I've actually come to think that the idea that originally there might have been more than 7 Chaos Emeralds in the world of Sonic is fairly plausible. The reason I didn't believe in this before is because there are many things in the Sonic games that I found made it very questionable. For example, they have never simply just stated that that's the case in the original Sonic games. All of the manuals only ever refer to the Chaos Emeralds. They never say anything like Chaos Emeralds can be found all around the world. You'd think that if that was the case, then you would establish that very explicitly, but they never did that. Additionally, Sonic Adventure does very much establish that there are only 7 Chaos Emeralds, and to me, that did not feel like a retcon. That just felt like the way the series was, and they were just clearly establishing it for the first time. There's also, of course, the fact that the Chaos Emeralds are very obviously, at least partially, inspired by the Dragon Balls, and so there's 7 of those, so it's sensible to assume there are 7 Chaos Emeralds as well. So there were lots of things pointing me to believe that there may only be 7 Chaos Emeralds. However, there were always problems with that as well. For example, the 8 Chaos Emeralds that exist in Sonic the Fighters, that kind of just led me to believe that that game was non-canon. And of course, there is the massively confusing thing that happens in the Sonic 3 manual, where Knuckles has a set of 7 Chaos Emeralds on Angel Island, and then they just disappear for no reason. And then Knuckles thinks that Sonic is coming to take the Chaos Emeralds from Angel Island, even though they're already gone, and by the time Sonic arrives on the island, he already has the 7 Chaos Emeralds that he got for West Side Island. So what the fuck is going on here? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. But upon rereading the manual of Sonic 3, this is actually the thing that has caused me to think that actually there might in fact be more than 7 Chaos Emeralds in the original version of Sonic. Reading it again, I realized that Knuckles never actually witnesses the Death Egg falling onto the island. He's there guarding the altar of the Emeralds, and then there's a flash of light, and Knuckles is knocked unconscious. When he wakes up, the Chaos Emeralds are gone. He goes to explore Angel Island, and that's where he sees the Death Egg already on the island. So that flash of light that knocked Knuckles out, I think was actually caused by the Chaos Emeralds perhaps being destroyed due to the impact of the Death Egg hitting the island. So as it turns out, the Emeralds don't just disappear for no reason. However, there are still problems here, because then Eggman arrives on the island and tells Knuckles that Sonic is after the Chaos Emeralds, which Knuckles believes even though he doesn't even know what's happened to his Chaos Emeralds. And there's still the issue of the fact that Sonic already has Chaos Emeralds when he comes to Angel Island, so how could he have possibly taken them from Angel Island when he already had them? However, this is something that I realized may be due to a mistranslation. Sorry, Windy, but I've come to realize something. To my understanding, in Japanese, there is no plural versions of words. When you're talking about something, you're basically just supposed to figure that out due to the context of the conversation. And in the manual of Sonic and Knuckles, they describe the Master Emerald as essentially a gigantic Chaos Emerald. And so, it's possible that when Eggman is telling Knuckles that Sonic is coming after the Chaos Emeralds, he may actually be saying that Sonic is coming after the Chaos Emerald, i.e. the Master Emerald. And so this clears up all of the weird logical holes that existed in the story under the context that there's only 7 Chaos Emeralds. However, there is still one additional issue I had with this that kept me from buying it, which is that still at the end of the day, there being 7 Chaos Emeralds on Angel Island and them disappearing is still entirely pointless. Why does that happen? Those emeralds still are never mentioned again in the game, so what was even the point of putting that in the story? You could have just not had that there and had Eggman say, yo, Sonic is coming after the Master Emerald. This is why I got the idea that it might have been a rewrite to get around the idea that Sonic 3 was split in 2 parts, and so they rewrote the Master Emerald out of Sonic 3's manual, because you don't actually see the Master Emerald in Sonic 3. Until I realized that I betcha the reason that they have the Chaos Emeralds with their own altar in Angel Island, where they then just disappear, is to explain why there is an empty altar for the 7 Chaos Emeralds around the Master Emerald. Why would there be an altar for 7 Chaos Emeralds if there were no Chaos Emeralds on this island? And so we have the Chaos Emeralds that belong here getting destroyed, thus allowing Sonic to put the Chaos Emeralds here to transform them into the Super Emeralds. Realizing all of that has completely cleared up any sort of logical errors or contradictions that would be created by the idea of there being more than 7 Chaos Emeralds. Whereas if we go with the idea that there are only 7 Chaos Emeralds, there are still multiple things about this setup in this game and other Sonic games that don't really make sense. So my new conclusion is that I actually do believe that in the original classic universe of Sonic, there were probably Chaos Emeralds all over the place. I mean, maybe not everywhere. Perhaps they were only found in special places like South Island and Angel Island and stuff like that. But it actually does make sense that there are more than 7 Chaos Emeralds. Which means that when Sonic Adventure establishes that there are only 7, that was probably a retcon, actually. Also, this introduces the question of what happens to the Chaos Emeralds when their energy is expended. We see at the end of Sonic 1 that they kind of just disappear. And going on the later Sonic games and their logic, then they basically function like Dragon Balls. They scatter around the world to be recollected in a later Sonic game. But with the idea of there being more than 7 Chaos Emeralds, that no longer has to be the case. And so actually, I've come to the conclusion that the most logical thing would be that the Chaos Emeralds might just disappear once their energy is completely expended, because otherwise, why wouldn't Eggman just return to an island after the events of a Sonic game if the Chaos Emeralds were still there and still had power? You know, during Sonic 3D Blast, Eggman goes to Flicky's Island to try to get the Chaos Emeralds there, but Sonic stops him from doing that, and then Sonic leaves Flicky Island, so why doesn't Eggman just go back to Flicky Island and recollect those Chaos Emeralds? Well, it's possible those Chaos Emeralds might no longer exist. That would also explain why in something like Sonic the Fighters, you need to collect the 8 specific Chaos Emeralds that each of those characters have, because in order to power Tails' rocket, it needs 8 Chaos Emeralds. Well, if there were Chaos Emeralds on, like, South Island that Sonic has already collected before, why doesn't he just go back there and get those 7 and then just get 1 more from any other place that he's already gotten Chaos Emeralds? Well, maybe it's because they don't know where Chaos Emeralds are other than those 8 that they've already found in the past that haven't been used up yet. It also makes a bit of thematic sense for the Chaos Emeralds to function like that, because then they kind of act as a bit of like a fossil fuel, a precious natural resource that Eggman is trying to get his hands on in order to exploit it for, you know, his scientific purposes. But, you know, them being magical stones rather than oil, Sonic is then able to use the power of the Chaos Emeralds for good instead of harming the planet like Eggman wants to do. So yeah, there you go. My thoughts about the classic world of Sonic and its Chaos Emeralds have been completely flipped. So everybody go ahead and modify your headcanons to include this now, because I do think this is most likely what was the original intention of the classic Sonic games. Last thing I want to touch on is stuff that I didn't really talk about very much in the first video I did about the classic lore of Sonic, which would be all of the spin-off games and the 8-bit Sonic games as well. In the previous video, I simply said that I don't necessarily think of a lot of them as canon due to the fact that they contradict a lot of things in the main Sonic games. So I didn't really give them that much of a look, but now let's actually talk about them a little bit, and I'll elaborate a little bit more on why I think that they're not really canon. Though firstly, something I want to touch on is Sonic 3D Blast. It states in that game that Knuckles is tagging along with Sonic and Tails as they come to Flicky Island to look for Chaos Emeralds, so all the way back here they already stopped giving a fuck about Knuckles guarding the Master Emerald on Angel Island. How about that? Now, the first game I want to touch on is particularly interesting, which is Sonic Spinball, because Sonic Spinball was not created by Sonic Team. It was actually created by the American branch of Sega that worked on Sonic 2, and so they wrote the game's story with the American lore in mind. So in the American version of Sonic Spinball, it says that Robotnik is planning to take over all of Mobius and transform all of the animals into robots with this fortress that he's built on Mount Mobius. However, for the Japanese versions of these games, they've done something very interesting because that contradicts the Japanese version of the universe, which is that they have Sonic Spinball take place on the planet Mobius, which is described as a different planet than the planet that the Sonic games normally take place on, and that Eggman has invaded this planet and is starting to take over. That is incredibly fucking weird. If I was localizing this, then I would have just not mentioned the whole Mobius thing at all, and just say that Eggman built this fortress on some island and Sonic is going to stop him from trying to take over the world or whatever. Very odd way of doing that, which means the Veggie Fortress that we see in Sonic Origins is technically not accurate. But anyway, the bigger thing I wanted to talk about was the 8-bit Sonic games, the one on Game Gear and Master System. Those games really, to me, do not feel like they are part of the same canon as the original Sonic games on Genesis and stuff. In fact, they almost seem like they're their own self-contained, separate canon because of many things that they say. First of all, as I mentioned in the first part, the manual of Sonic 1 states that Sonic lives on South Island, which contradicts Sonic as we know as a character. But Sonic 2 in particular is where things get quite interesting. Firstly, a lot of people seem to think that the 8-bit Sonic 2 takes place before the 16-bit Sonic 2. However, if you actually read the story in the Japanese manual, then that really doesn't make any sense at all. First of all, it says that it specifically takes place after Sonic has restored South Island, so okay, it takes place after Sonic 1. But Sonic is already familiar with Tails in the Japanese manual, and Sonic meets Tails in the Japanese manual of the Genesis Sonic 2, so this definitely can't take place before the Genesis Sonic 2. But the other curious thing about this is that Sonic receives a letter from Tails stating that he is on South Island where Eggman has started to take over again, which is very curious because Tails is not from South Island, he is from West Side Island. As far as we're familiar with, Tails has never even been to South Island, but apparently he has, according to this game here. It's a little bit weird, but it doesn't necessarily contradict anything in the 16-bit games. However, once we get to Sonic Chaos, I find things start to become incredibly suspicious, because once again, this game takes place on South Island. And to me, this is starting to come across as like this is supposed to be the setting of these Sonic games, similar to how like Mario takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom. These 8-bit Sonic games make it seem like Sonic takes place on South Island, even though according to the Genesis games and such, we know that it takes place on many different islands. Another thing that is mentioned in Sonic Chaos's manual that is interesting is that without the power of the Chaos Emeralds, apparently South Island sinks into the ocean, which is a weird thing that has never been mentioned ever again in the Sonic series. But now, here is where we also get to the big contradiction that makes me think these 8-bit games are in their own separate canon, which is that Knuckles is introduced in Sonic Triple Trouble like this is the first time Sonic and Tails have encountered him. It specifically states that Knuckles is a stranger to them. It also makes no mention of Angel Island or Knuckles being the Guardian or anything like that. And so this now becomes completely impossible for this to take place in the same world as the main Sonic games, because we know Sonic meets Knuckles in Sonic 3. And over the course of that game, Knuckles realizes that he's been tricked by Eggman, and so he starts working with Sonic and Tails as friends. But now, once again, in Sonic Triple Trouble, not only do they not know each other, but Knuckles is working for Eggman again. So the only way that this game's story could exist is if it was in a separate continuity. And then once again, Sonic Blast takes place on South Island, and again, Knuckles is here with no mention of him being the Guardian of the Master Emerald or anything like that. So to me, with the way that these 8-bit Sonic games are written, they really come across like they are their own separate continuity from the main Sonic games. You know, the main Sonic games are about Sonic as he travels the world, and Eggman follows him along and is up to no good going after the Chaos Emeralds. Whereas here in the 8-bit games, it feels more like almost a weekly cartoon show where every week Sonic and Tails have to stop Eggman from whatever he's up to in this episode. Even the tone of the writing in these games is a little bit more kiddie than it is in the main Sonic games. There's also stuff like Tails' Adventure, which has a number of contradictions with the 16-bit Sonic games. For example, here it's stated that Tails is from Coco Island, or at least that he lived here prior to meeting Sonic on West Side Island. I guess you could say that at a certain point Tails moved to West Side Island, but there's nothing that really specifies that kind of thing. But also the manual makes no mention of Tails being like timid or shy or cowardly or anything like what he's described in the 16-bit Sonic 2's manual of what Tails was like before he met Sonic. And as I stated in the previous video, in this game, Tails goes on a fucking killing spree and takes out an army all by himself. And that army that he takes out is the army of the Great Battle Cuckoo, which is described as an emperor who is out for world domination. And so Tails manages to collect the Chaos Emeralds on this island and defeat him, thus saving Coco Island and the world. Definitely not the kind of thing that you would expect Tails to be doing prior to meeting Sonic, where he is supposed to be very cowardly and such. Though I must say, I actually kind of like the idea of this Great Battle Cuckoo character. I mean, his name is really stupid, and the character design is quite bad, in my opinion, but the idea of having multiple villains in Sonic is actually something that I wish they would have done. You know, I love Dr. Eggman and all, but how many friggin' games in a row can he be the bad guy? You know, having a couple of different villains that we could shuffle around game to game would have definitely helped out the Sonic series. And the fact that the Great Battle Cuckoo is described as being like an emperor, and he's clearly very warlike, invading this island with his army, it kind of makes me think there was a missed opportunity here to have multiple villains in Sonic, where each of them could represent one of the horrible things about humanity. You know, Sonic is supposed to be the representative of everything good about people, and then Eggman is supposed to represent specifically like pollution and damaging the environment for the sake of progress and industrialization and all that. And so you could have had multiple different villains in Sonic, each of them representing a different large-scale human atrocity. Eggman can be damage to the environment, and this Great Battle Cuckoo character could have been war itself. And you could have created multiple different Sonic villains that are about different horrible things that Sonic, as the beacon of all that is good in the world, he could have conflicted with them. That would have been pretty cool. I would have liked them to go with that kind of direction for the series, but oh well. Now, Sonic Labyrinth is another one of those games that makes me think that the story of these games is supposed to kind of be like a weekly cartoon series, because in this, Eggman is feeling frustrated that Sonic is always able to thwart his plans, and so he sneaks into where Sonic is sleeping and swaps out Sonic's shoes with shoes that slow him down, which is a very cartoony and ridiculous concept. Like, if Eggman is in a position where he is by a vulnerable sleeping Sonic, you think you just kill him, but no, this is very kiddie and cartoony and goofy, so all he does is swap out Sonic's shoes. A much more tame and silly and kiddie plan than the kind of things that he's doing in the Genesis Sonic games now, isn't it? Though a nice little detail here that I like is that when they describe Eggman sneaking in and swapping out Sonic's shoes while he's sleeping, they don't specifically say that he snuck into Sonic's house. All it describes is that Tails is currently off on his own adventure, and so Sonic is by himself right now, which makes me think that maybe this is an instance where Sonic is actually staying at Tails' place, like his workshop or whatever, which I think is a much more reasonable idea for where Sonic would live if he was going to somewhere. You know, Sonic is normally off traveling the world, but if he needs a place to crash, maybe he comes by and stays at Tails' place sometimes, you know? I think that makes sense. And actually, that idea of Tails being out on his own adventure right now kind of coincides almost perfectly with Tails' Sky Patrol, which says that Tails has gone off on his own adventure, so maybe these two games take place at the same time. Oh yeah, and by the way, Sonic Labyrinth once again also takes place on South Island. One last thing I want to touch on before I go is that in my first video I got a number of comments talking about how certain things exist in relation to later Sonic games, but I specifically made that first video in the context of only the classic Sonic games, as if Sonic Adventure had yet to come out, and that was all we had to work with at that time. As with Sonic Adventure and many games following, a lot of things were retconned and changed, and so the Sonic series was no longer the same one that it was back in these earlier games, and so I wanted to look at what the Sonic series looked like originally in its earliest incarnation before things started to get changed. Obviously, things like the dragon mentioned in Sonic 3's manual could have been elaborated into chaos in Sonic Adventure, but originally that was just an idea that was thrown out there that they could have expanded in multiple different ways. And that's the way I wanted to look at the classic universe of Sonic. So there you go, that's everything I wanted to say about the classic universe of Sonic the Hedgehog. This should be now the final video I make on this subject. I don't think there's anything left to talk about, specifically in the context of these original games and their manual stories and all that. So, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.